Welcome back to the Block Repair YouTube channel. In the last part, we managed to get this Rock-ola SuperSound looking absolutely amazing. We got new wood grain on the sides, we got new T-trim on it, and we also cleaned up the inside. Now we need to do a few more things, starting with the coin door. Right here is the frame for the coin door, and as you can see, it's a little bit rusty, so we're going to sandblast this thing and repowder coat it a brown. I got a bunch of different brown powder coats, so we'll see which one ends up matching best. However, I thought I had a coin door for this, but I've checked where it should be for this machine, and it's not there, so I don't actually think I do, which is a problem. So we're going to figure that out. I'll probably steal one of these off of my other machines for now, and just put a search on eBay until one pops up, because one will probably pop up before I get to finishing those other ones, so that's what we're going to do. Now, in my opinion, Eastwood doesn't have a great way to tell the actual, true color of something on their website for their powder coats, so I ended up just getting literally all the browns they had, so we're going to throw these on some test pieces of metal and see what they look like and see how well they match. I'm mainly looking for one that's going to, well, match. Now, they sell kind of car-shaped pieces of metal for powder coating and painting, so you can kind of see what they look like on the different curves and stuff, but in my opinion, the cheapest method is some old rocker arms. They only take about a minute to sandblast, and just like that, you now have some beautiful pieces of metal to powder coat that have a ton of curves and divots to see well in all different angles. And guess what? They're free, as long as you have them. And then I just ID them with a little bit of colored tape so I can match them back to the bottles whenever I need. And there we go. We have our custom, things. We can see how the powder coat looks at different angles and different lighting. Looks absolutely perfect. Now, I was trying to figure out which one of these colors to use. I was thinking probably that one, as that one seems the closest, or it did. That one seemed pretty far off. But then, the final one I did, this one here, is a perfect fucking match. That is absolutely perfect. So, I think that's the color we're going to go with. Funnily enough, the one that matches is the most boring one of them all. You got this one with all those beautiful metallics in it. This one here, again, all those beautiful metallics. And then the one that actually matches, which is just brown. Which is what this is. It's just brown, so that's why it matches. But I could definitely see some uses for these on some other things. That looks absolutely gorgeous. That looks so good. So does this one. That looks really good. I really never thought about brown for anything, but those look really good. But without further ado, let's throw these things in the sandblaster, sandblast them down, get them down to bare metal, fix any issues that we need to fix. I think there's some bent metal in this door, and then we can get these things powder coated. And now the door is nicely sandblasted, but you can see that it's kind of bent up there in the middle, so we're going to flatten this thing out, bend it back to shape. There's also a bit of damage up here at the top edge. It's kind of bent down in. And there's a bit of marking on this here that we're going to sand out, but this thing is looking awesome. There we go. I made it flat. I've sanded it down. I fixed some damage to the frame. Let's throw some powder on this thing and get it powder coated. Okay, there we go. It is now powder coated. Let's get this thing mounted in. I'm going to have to design some rubber pieces for here. There's originally supposed to be some rubber pieces here that help seal against the edge, just to make it nice and tight while digging up the other paint. Well, in this case, powder coat. Let's get this thing mounted in and see how it looks. There we go. That's looking absolutely beautiful. Now, I don't have a lock to actually mount this on here yet, so I have to take it off. But as you can see, this is looking absolutely beautiful against this nice wood grain here. That looks awesome. Now, let's move on to something else. Now, I think we ought to make sure it's still functioning since we, had it all ripped apart and had to put it all back together. Let's just make sure it still works. It's plugged in right now. I'm going to hit some credits. Actually, I'll just add one credit, add a couple credits, and we'll see if it'll play that record. If I put that one in 101, gotta make its little lap around to switch it to the other side. Hopefully, that's what it's doing. There we go. And there we go. It appears we still have sound. I'm going to check, make sure we have all the speakers, and we'll be good. So it still works with that computer. The problem is, that's the computer that actually belongs in this cabinet. That one goes to another one, and I'm not going to switch them around. So we need to figure out what's wrong with this one. As you can see, it gets stuck in initializing lock-in. I've had this one work before, and then later it'll die. I've had it work, then die. I've had it not work, then work. It seems to be somewhat intermittent. So we need to figure out why that is. Now, to save some time diagnosing, I have both of the board sets right here, the functional and the non-functional. And what we're going to do is actually just take the top board from this one, put it onto this one, see if it works, vice versa. And we're going to figure out which board has the issue, which will save me some time diagnosing. So I managed to get one of the board sets to fail. This is with the known good top board and the unknown bottom board, so the issue must be with the bottom board. This is the board that we're having an issue with. I did check the ribbon cable and tried the other one, and that wasn't the issue, so it's definitely an issue somewhere on this board. So I think the first thing we're going to do is actually just reseat all of these socketed chips, because pretty much all of them are socketed, and we'll go from there. Maybe it'll be just a simple socket issue. Okay, so I've reseated all of these chips, and that did not unfortunately fix anything. So let's dig a little bit deeper. The next thing I'm wondering is these contacts here are pretty, well, dirty. So let's clean these things up and see if that fixes our issue. Now, there's two ways to go about this since, well, none of the easy issues were the issue, and that is simply swapping chips or probing. I could start probing, or since I have a fully functional other one, I can just swap each section of chip over until I find the match, and then I can figure out which chip it is much, much easier. So conveniently, it's not a chip, so it is a board issue. Yay! After a bunch of probing, I've finally figured out what the issue is, and I should have done it first, but it's a tantalum capacitor right here that is dead shorted. I've had a tantalum capacitor be dead on this exact same kind of board before, not the exact one, but another one of these Rock-ola SuperSound S2 CPU boards, and I believe it was either this one or this one, and when it failed catastrophically, but this one did not. Now, weirdly, there is two different kinds of tantalum capacitors on these. There's this nice blue kind, and the functional board I have actually has the red kind, though it also has some blue kind, which is kind of weird. I guess they just used whatever they had in stock. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to have this one. I'll have to pull it off, see what it actually is. There should be some writing on it to identify it. If not, I guess I'll just have to identify it off the other one. But let's pull this thing off. Make sure that dead short actually goes away, because technically I guess it could be dead shorted somewhere else, but I'm pretty sure that's our issue. And here is that capacitor, and it is actually dead shorted, and it did actually fail catastrophically. As you can see, it is a very nice burn mark there, right where I need to read. Very nice of it. But it did fail catastrophically. It just didn't fail enough to leave a mark on the actual circuit board. Okay, so interestingly enough, I actually have those tantalum capacitors, the 10 at 35, which actually means it wasn't one of these bottom ones that failed previously, because these are 22 at 35, which means it was either that one or this one that failed on me previously, so it might have genuinely been the exact same tantalum capacitor that failed on me on my last one of these. That's surprising. That might be something to look into. Fortunately, this is not what I wanted to see. As you can see, we are still stuck on initializing lock-in, which means that's not the only issue. So, I have a few issues now. One, dry probing, I couldn't find any real differences between the boards. This one is still running all of the known good chips, so it's definitely none of that. The issue is it's taking a long time to initialize, but it is initializing. But, after a little bit, sometimes it'll fail and it'll go back to initializing. So, is it power related? CPU related? I'm not sure. Interestingly, it is actually voltage related. I was probing the 5-volt line, and it dropped down to 4.5, which knocked it back down into initialization, and then it brought itself back up. So, there's something wrong with the voltage. It is constantly low at around 4.8, and then it'll drop down to the 4.5, causing the reset. So something is drawing our voltage down. I have finally found the issue. It took so incredibly stupidly long. Both of these two transistors are bad. Not these two specifically. Those are the known good 2 off of the known good board put on this board to verify those are the only issues with this, since we already had one obviously smoking gun issue that should have caused the only issue that this had. But no, apparently I think a power surge hit this and wiped out a couple things. So honestly, I'm probably going to overhaul this entire board, new tantalum capacitors all over, new transistors all over, just to be safe, because I don't want to sell a board that's going to die tomorrow. So all of the known failure points, aka tantalum capacitors that like to dead short, and transistors apparently, will get replaced just to make sure this board will never fail. Well, can't say never, but shouldn't fail for another 40 years. This is genuinely ridiculous. It was working for about 10 times in a row, and guess what? It's now stuck in initializing lock-in again and will not boot. So, what I genuinely think is going on is there's just so many issues with all those transistors and stuff on that board that, well, it works, sometimes does, sometimes doesn't. It seems to be such a weirdly intermittent issue that I don't 100% guarantee that it's transistors, but I think that since we have so many other power-related issues that this board has had, it received a massive power surge from that power supply, which did have to be fully rebuilt, so that does make sense, and killed that board really badly. So, entire overhaul it is. This did not go as planned. It is now 9 o'clock at night. I expected to be done, like, way earlier. I expected to get way more done to this machine, but, I guess not. This board has other plans. I hate this board. I've never had one be this difficult. I'm not sure what happened to this thing. My best guess is a power surge and killed a whole bunch of the power-related circuits on that board. So I'm gonna honestly just have to order a bunch of parts, completely overhaul that section, because even if I do find the exact other components that are causing the issue, all those other things definitely have a shortened lifespan, and I don't want to sell something that's gonna break immediately. I have 2 known bad transistors, a bad capacitor, and it still doesn't work. So who knows what else is wrong. Weirdly, none of the chips are bad, but clearly there's issues.